Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and this is Expedition 3 Pages, and today I'm going to finally talk about how my 40 by 40 list went. For those of you who don't know, a long time ago, many moons ago, I made my 40 by 40 list, which was a list of 40 books I hope to read before I turn 40. I turned 40 on the 13th of June last year, and so really should have wrapped it up, but I've been in like a massive booktube lull since then. I think for a long time I haven't really made too many videos, so I just never wrapped it up. And throughout the year of me being 40, I carried on reading some of the books off of that list. So now that I am 41, I'm going to look back, assess it and see how I did. As a little aside, the day that I'm hoping to upload this video will be the 16th of June, which is my mum's birthday. So yeah, happy birthday mum. You might not be watching this video, but happy birthday anyway. I think I made this list at the beginning of 2023, so some of the books I read a really long time ago and I don't think I'm going to be able to remember much about them. So this is just going to be very quickly going through, telling you like if I remember things about them, what I rated them. I've gone back and had a look at that, and if I feel like maybe they still deserved that rating now, or if I would change it in hindsight. So first up, the very first book that I read was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. This one is a very, very small book about a scientist who makes a time machine and goes really, really far into the future and explores the world there and tries to come up with his own reasons as to why things are the way they are. I gave this book 4 stars. I don't think I would give it 4 stars upon thinking about it now. I feel like maybe it's like a 3. It definitely annoyed me when I was reading it, so I don't really know why I rated it 4 stars. There were things about it, especially about the main character, that frustrated me. That's what I kind of remember from this one. Something about matches annoyed me, and the treatment of a character in here annoyed me as well. But the end I really liked because it was really thought-provoking and made me kind of consider what would happen if you go really, really far into the future. The second book I read was The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I did get rid of this one. I did also rate this one 4 stars, but to be honest, I don't really remember much about it. And the one thing that I do remember, I'm not sure if it's a spoiler or not, so I'm not going to say it here, but I did find this book a little bit underwhelming, well, quite a lot underwhelming actually, because I read Station 11 and really, really loved it, so I thought I was going to love this one as well, but unfortunately it wasn't quite my style of book. I did get enjoyment out of it. I think my expectations were just a little bit sky high. Next up, I read Imago by Octavia E. Butler. So this is the final book in the Xenogenesis series. The first book in the series is Dawn, and the middle book, I can't remember what it's called now, but I don't own it and I do want to get it because I do want to reread this series at some point. This book I really enjoyed. I also gave this one 4 stars. I was just dishing out the 4 stars all over the place. But I really, really liked this one and the character that we were following. You kind of follow 3 different characters in all different books, but they're linked. And it's a really, really fascinating sci-fi story. Talks a lot about genetics and sexuality and how you identify. Really, really interesting. Octavia E. Butler is one of my favourite authors. I probably should be holding this one in front because that's what I read for this challenge. So yeah, loved it. The next book I finished was Frostheart, book 3 by Jamie Littler. So this is called Rise of the World Eater. The first book is Frostheart and the second book is this one, which is Escape from Aurora. And this was, yeah, another wrapping up of a series, which is really good. And I absolutely loved this book. I love these characters. I liked the storyline in this one a lot, and I just remember getting quite emotional about it as well. I think it made me cry at one point. So yeah, these books are absolutely gorgeous. I'll show you the first one so you don't get any spoilers, but Jamie Littler illustrates all his books himself, and they're stunning pictures, and yeah, really, really nicely designed books and a really good story. It is middle grade. I don't usually read many middle grade books, but really, really enjoyed this series. Oh, and I didn't say, but I gave that book 5 stars. Loved it. It was so good. Okay, then the 5th book I read was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and this book I really, really enjoyed as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm sure many of you know what this one is about, so I won't go into it, but I really, really enjoyed it, and yeah, gave it 4.5 stars. Next up, I read The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and this one I thought was just okay. You're following a woman who's working in a convenience store. She's pretty content with her life, but her family are on her to make more of her life and do something else. Yeah, I can't really remember too much about it now, but I gave it 3.5 stars, and the only thing that really stands out to me now is that there was like some quite shocking part. I think it was just one bit, but something was said that was very blunt and quite shocking, and I was like, oh, okay. It felt like, yeah, I felt the language was a little bit like that at times. But yeah, 3.5 stars I gave this one. Then I read the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, The Final Empire. I will talk about that later, but this book I gave 4.25 stars. Then I read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and I gave this 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I really like the Brontes a lot. I like their style of writing, and I like the fact that they use French in a lot of their books, because I'm trying to learn French. I really like that about that. I was absolutely not a fan of Mr. Rochester, but then when the other love interest came along, I was like, where is Mr. Rochester? Anyway, that's what I remember about that one. Next up, I read Sula by Toni Morrison. Now this one, what did I rate it? I gave it 4 stars. Toni Morrison's books, I've only read 2 of them. I read this and The Bluest Eye. And they're very impactful reads. Like The Bluest Eye was one of the hardest books that I've ever read. Like with content-wise, I found it really difficult. And I assumed this one that would have been like the same, but I can't remember much about this, unfortunately. I think a lot of Toni Morrison's work goes a little bit over my head. I don't know if I'm not well read enough yet to read it and fully take everything on board of what she's trying to say. So yeah, I'm gonna give it another go. I do want to read all of her work and then maybe go back from the beginning and see if I get more out of it, because I do feel like I miss stuff when I read Toni Morrison. I do get a lot out of it as well, but yeah, I definitely feel like it goes over my head a little bit. Next, I read The Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. So the reason Jane Eyre was on the list was because this one was on the list, and this is like a prequel to Jane Eyre. I know you probably can't give spoilers to Jane Eyre at this point, but it's to do with a character that is part of a spoiler, so I'm not going to say, is that silly? Maybe. I didn't love this though. I really loved the idea of it. I thought it was really great to give a voice to that character, and it was really interesting, like the setting and thinking about race and thinking about mental health and everything like that. But for me, this just wasn't executed like how I would have liked it to have been, and I unfortunately didn't really enjoy it, and actually I didn't rate it, so I can't see where my thoughts were when I did read it, because I think I just didn't really like it and didn't know what to do with it, so I just didn't rate it. Okay, then I read Hollowpox by Morrigan Crow, which is the 3rd book in the Morrigan Crow series. Is that what it's called? So the first one is Nevermore, and the second one is Wondersmith, and then we have Hollowpox. And I really like this series. I do a buddy read with my partner. We read it together. We don't read it individually. We just read it out loud to each other. And I really enjoy that experience with him. They're fun books. Love all the characters. This took a different bit of a vibe. It was quite sad, and it was about a pandemic. So, you know, emotions, it came out when the pandemic came out, unfortunately. I feel like that was unfortunate. I don't know if that meant sales improved or didn't improve, I'm not sure, but I certainly didn't want to read it in the pandemic. So that's why we kind of waited a long time before we carried on with the series. And then her new book came out last month. Was it last month, I think? Maybe the month before, and we've got that now, so we're ready to go with book 4. But yeah, I really like this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. Okay, next up I listened to, but I'll hold this up, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I reread this. This was the only reread on the list because I wanted to read another book that was linked to it that I'll talk about later. Really liked it. Again, it was great. Didn't rate it. I couldn't see my rating, and actually I didn't go back to see what I rated it the first time. So I'll put it up here, what I rated it the first time. But yeah, classic, right? The 13th book that I read was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And this really surprised me. I absolutely loved this book. I listened to it. I remember I was doing a puzzle at the time and just was really engrossed in the book. I do really enjoy Margaret Atwood's writing. I think she writes in a really engaging way. And yeah, it was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I am boiling right now, guys. It is so hot outside, and I've got the windows shut so I can film, and I'm sweltering in here. So yeah, that's probably why I'm being a bit brief with the books. Okay, next up, I read The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, which is book 2 in the Mistborn series. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then number 15, I read Terra Nullius, am I saying that right, by Claire G. Coleman. This book is set in Australia during like a kind of colonial time, but there is a bit of a sci-fi twist. And unfortunately, I didn't get on with this one. I did like the premise, but I didn't like the way it was written, and I feel like when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I wish this was happening. Oh, I wish this was happening. So yeah, I just didn't get on with the book, unfortunately. And I gave this one 2.5 stars, which is a bit harsh, but yeah. Then I read The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I really, really liked this one. I thought this was fascinating. I loved how things linked together, and yeah, it was a great kind of interesting fantasy read. I really, really need to continue this series because this is the only one that I've read in the series, and I'm really eager to get to books 2 and 3. Just gotta find the time. Oh, and I really like that one. I gave it 4.75 stars. I don't know why I took off 0.25 stars, but I did. Oh, but coming up next is another one that I gave 4.5 stars to, and that is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I really, really liked this, but I didn't love it as much as like I liked Little Dorrit, which is another one of his that I read. I love the way that Charles Dickens writes his characters. I know people say that Charles Dickens was really wordy because he got paid by the word, so he just extended everything out. But I just love the way he uses language and he plays with words. And so I'm glad that he did that, if that's what he did, because I think it's really clever, and I really, really enjoy it. Next up, I listened to Felix Ever After by Casing Callender. This one I can't really remember either. It's a YA queer contemporary romance story, and yeah, I can only remember little bits of it, but I didn't love it, but I think that's just because I'm the wrong demographic for it. I don't really like contemporaries or romances, so whenever I read or listen to them, I tend to rate them lower. But I actually decided not to rate this one when I logged it, and I think that was because I didn't want to rate it lower and then bring down the rating for the book, because I do think it's an important read. You're reading from, you know, maybe a perspective that you don't live by yourself, and I think that's really important, and I think it should be read. It's just, it's not my favourite because I don't really love YA contemporary stuff, really. The 19th book I read was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. So this book is linked to Station 11 and The Glass Hotel. The Glass Hotel, I think, did have that a little bit with Station 11 from what I can remember, but then Sea of Tranquility went even further with it. It spanned over like a vast time, and I thought the book concept was really clever. I didn't love it though myself. I wasn't that engaged in it. I did like how it played with the other characters from the other books' storylines and things like that. But yeah, I still didn't love it as much as I loved Station 11, but I did give this one 4 stars. Oh yeah, I gave The Glass Hotel 4 stars as well. But yeah, I gave Sea of Tranquility 4 stars, and I feel like I'd probably still give it 4 stars now if I did a reread of it. Book 20 I picked up was The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. So this book is the reason that I reread Pride and Prejudice, because you're following Mary Bennet in this story. So Mary Bennet really takes a back seat in Pride and Prejudice, and you don't really know much about her. She's very quiet. And so this very long book takes Mary's story, and the first part overlaps a bit with Pride and Prejudice, and then it kind of like goes off into the future past the story in Pride and Prejudice. I found it really boring, and yeah, I felt bad about that, but it really dragged for me. I found it like quite slow, and it didn't really keep my interest from what I can remember. I gave it 3 stars, so I didn't rate it that badly, so maybe my memory of it is worse than the actual reality of reading it, but I remember being very disappointed and being quick to try and get rid of it. Once I finished it, I just kind of wanted it gone. Okay, and book number 21, I read The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and so wrapped up this whole trilogy, which was great. That was my goal, to read this trilogy, and I'm so glad that I completed it from start to finish, from when I made the list before I was 40. And I gave Hero of Ages 5 stars. Like a lot of people say, Brandon Sanderson really knows how to wrap up a story, and it was so good. This book starts off where you're following Rin, who lives on the streets and doesn't have very much at all, and she kind of comes into contact with a gang who are trying to overthrow the empire, and that's how it kind of all begins, and it just all kicks off. This is the series with the magic system where you can ingest metals and then use them in quite a physics kind of way. Like, it makes sense to you when you're reading it, and I loved the fight scenes in this. I'm not really a fight scene person, but I thought they were so engaging and action-packed, and I would love to see this as a TV show. I don't know why it is not a TV show. So yeah, successful series. And then the last 2 books that I read before I turned 40, so yep, I failed my challenge. These are books numbers 22 and 23. I read The City of Brass, which is the first in the David trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, and I also read Kingdom and Copper, which is the second book in the series, and really enjoyed these. I'll talk a little bit more about these in a second. So yeah, let's have a little pause. So before my 40th birthday last year, I ended up reading the 23 books out of 40, which is over half, so I calculated it and it's 58%, which is a pass if you're at university. So I feel like that's not that bad. I'm quite happy to take 58%. But I did carry on reading more books down the list, so I'll just quickly run over what I read past when I was 40, or during the time I was 40. The first book I read post 40 from the list was Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga. I don't want to try and pronounce her surname because I tried before and I can't do it. When I listen to it, I can't do it. And you know what? I gave this book 5 stars. Can I remember a single thing about it? No. It is like a crime story. There's some dead bodies and you're in a Polish village. Here it describes the main character as eccentric woman in her 60s, and it says it recounts the events surrounding the disappearance of her 2 dogs. But I just can't remember like hardly anything about it, which is crazy because I gave it 5 stars and I remember absolutely loving it. So this is definitely one that I need to keep hold of and do a reread of. Okay, I have to quickly whiz through these because I'm boiling and I'm getting a headache, which is not good. So I'm going to whiz through these. The next book I read was The Empire of Gold, which is the final book in the David trilogy, so along with these 2. So I did wrap up this whole series. I did this as a read-along with Mel from Book Fiend Named Mel, Emily from Emily Beth Hall, and Manny from Reading with Manny. We did live shows talking about these books, which was really fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed these. It was great. Okay, up next we have another 5-star read, which is The Light Fantastic by Terry Pratchett. I really love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was like so much better than the first book. I did like the first book, following the same characters, Rincewind, the wizard, and Twoflower, who is a tourist from another place, coming to see these like weird and magical things, and they get wrapped up in so much drama. The first book was really good. It was kind of more like an adventure story, going from like one kind of challenge to the next, which I don't love myself, but this one had more, I felt like, of a fully formed plot, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so good. I then read The Last Children of Tokyo by Yoko Tawada. This one unfortunately was a disappointment to me as well. I had high expectations for this because it is a dystopian where you're following people who are living in a world where the elderly are really healthy, they're able to live really long lives, but their children and their grandchildren aren't like that. There's been some sort of DNA mutation, which means that they're getting sick and they're unable to look after themselves, and so it's kind of exploring a world like that. It's also exploring a world, you're following the characters in Japan, and Japan is completely cut off from the rest of the world, and you don't really know why. And I thought you would maybe kind of find out more, but the more the story went on, it was only a small book, but the more the story went on, kind of less of a storyline there was, and I lost a bit of interest, which is sad because the first half I really loved, and I gave this 3 stars overall. And then the final book I read on the list before I turned 41 is Dragonflight by N. McCaffrey. This is the first book in a series, but I can't remember what the series name is. My dad really wanted me to read this one. I listened to it. I really like the premise where you're on like another world. It's kind of like sci-fi fantasy. I would guess more sci-fi actually, because humans like a long time ago had migrated to this other planet, and the other planet has dragons there, and then the humans that have settled on the planet then become so isolated from their past that the stories have kind of turned into myths and mythology, and so the lords of the land no longer believe in anything, and there's kind of war and all that kind of stuff. And it was really fun. I really liked it. I gave it 3.5 stars, which sounds low, but I did enjoy it, and I have like fond memories of it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that is it. That's everything that I read on my list before I turned 41. So if you include the year I was 40. And so in total, I read 28 books out of 40, and that equals 70%, which again, if you go by university laws, that's a distinction, so I'm taking it. I'm taking that as a win. So yeah, I do have 12 books on the list that unfortunately I didn't get to which I was going to go and get them and hold them up, but I'm so hot I do need to stop filming this video. So I'm going to ruin editing Kim's life and just tell you the names of the books, and then I'll put them up here so you know what they are. And these I'm still really, really interested in reading, it's just that I didn't get to them. Okay, so The Long Song, The Name of the Wind, The Wise Man's Fear, Middlemarch, Kin To, The Goldfinch, A Beautiful Foolish Endeavour, The Obelisk Gate, The Stone Sky, Dragon Quest, Dragon Song, and Inkheart. All those 12 books I do still really want to read. I just need to find the time somewhere. So yeah, I would absolutely love to know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them as well. So please let me know down below. So I don't think I'm going to be making like a 50 before 50. I did find it quite restricting to have a 40 by 40 list and a bit too much pressure. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to create a new one, but I am probably more than likely going to change my mind about that because I love a list. I do love a list. And at the moment I remember the pressure, but in a couple of years I'll probably forget that and I'll be like, yeah, I want another list. Where's my 50 before 50? So yeah, we'll see how it goes. If you have made any lists like that for yourself, let me know how you're going with it in the comments as well. And yeah, that's everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna go and like soak my head in cold water or something now. Yeah, anyway, I hope you're having a nice day and I'll see you in the next one. Take care everyone, bye.